Do, do, do. Yes, it's here. Hi everyone. I want to do a little live. Even my voice is a little bit funny. I have a little throat infection. But I felt really guided to share something in this group this week also. So if you are jumping here on live, just tell me hi, and if you're watching the replay, you can write replay to this video, so I know that you have been watching this. Today I want to talk about being a friend with your inner critic, and this is a beautiful yoga off the mat practice. What is inner critic? Inner critic is that voice within you that is creating doubt, hesitation. It creates tense in our body and in our minds. It creates frustration. It creates those feelings that we might not want to feel necessarily. And eventually, because of those critical thoughts and the feelings, it often stops us to do what we want to do and what's our heart's desire to do. This might be in personal life, so something that you are going through, for example, communication with some family or friends, members, or just communication within yourself, like something that you are processing within you. Maybe you had some situation during the weekend or last week that, and it still kind of troubles your mind. It kind of loops, it comes in and out to your mind, and every time you think about the event or something you say or didn't say, you get this feeling that doesn't feel so great, and in a way, you might even create the habit of avoiding to think about it, or just like really getting into it and getting into this big gigantic loop of thoughts, like scenarios what could have happened or whatever it is. And professional wise, it might be that you are moving through something. This can be also in a personal life, of course, but moving through something that is a bit out of your comfort zone, and this creates feelings and thoughts of insecurity. You might have a fear of being judged, or fear of being kind of ridiculous, or that people won't respond what you're saying, or your message is not coming through as you wish, and then the inner critic sees the moment and kind of comes in and puts the water to the sauna. It heats up even more, so that you might feel more uncomfortable and eventually shy away from what you want to do. And last week I was sharing that, for example, coming here live is very raw experience for me, because it's like my inner critic is very much present. I can give you this example from my own life, and I'm kind of like, do I find the right words, and do I get my message out, and does maybe somebody will not like what I say or doesn't resonate what I say, and there is this sense of like, do I connect with the audience or the people that are in the group? Do they hear me? Do they like me? And all these kind of thinking, which creates a feeling that maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe there is another way. Maybe I can rehearse it 1,000 times and then come here. So this being said, befriending your inner critic would be a practice of slowing down and really becoming aware of that critical mind. And because it's not maybe a good advice to give to yourself or to even somebody else that don't think like that. Have you ever been stressed and somebody said to you like, oh, but don't stress, and then it's like, well, I'm stressed already. Or if you have history with some kind of panic attacks, maybe somebody said to you like, don't panic, and then you're like, well, it's not necessarily in my control. Or somebody is very sad or confused, you say, don't be sad. And we cannot really take away or change our feelings in a way. The feelings are always interpretation of how we are thinking. So how is our mind turning? And if their mind is turning, for example, around the fear, because the fear is so strong emotion, and if you watch the workshops, you might have you maybe remember that there are different forms of fear, and one of the form of fear can be confusion or worry, and worrisome thinking. So if we say to ourselves like, oh, but don't worry, it's okay, it's all good, it might actually create an opposite kind of result that we want, and the worry just keeps on coming. What we can do with this is to slow down and create awareness to those thought processes and our habits to think one way. Because when we do that, when we kind of like slow down and start to really witness, okay, I have this kind of feeling, I have maybe even the heart is racing, or maybe like if I share from my own experience that when I get nervous, I have this excitement in my chest. It kind of, my head gets empty, and then the fear steps in like, yeah, I don't know what to say. I will probably lose my words, and the fear of failing in the moment is creating even more resistance to go there. So when there is this kind of resistance, see if you can soften with it, and create space for yourself to notice and say like, okay, I'm experiencing this. I'm experiencing that something is off. Something doesn't feel right. And then give a name to your feeling. I'm feeling nervous, or I'm feeling tension. I'm feeling fear of failing. I'm feeling nervousness. Now I said that. And what kind of thoughts that feeling creates. So the thoughts could be like, okay, I will mess it up. And when you have that traced down all the way to a thought, already then you have created space to observe what is happening within you. And that's yoga of the mat practice, totally. And in that practice, you can see what is the message from that critical thinking mind. And my belief is that the critical mind is a messenger in a way. It has a purpose that is higher than just to, block and put us on our toes and create resistance. I believe there is a bigger meaning for the critical mind. And many times, maybe if you have, for example, yoga practice or training background, you have heard in a training that silent the critical mind and start to wake up the inner teacher mind or inner wisdom mind. And that's true, that's great. But in a way, my invitation now is to start to really befriend and to learn to listen. What's the message from the critical mind? So what would be, for example, for yourself in a situation that is not so great, and the feelings that are not so great, and the thoughts that are a bit jammed or stuck or disempowering, what would be the message from those? And when you start to process that, you are breaking the chain of thinking one way, and you're basically turning your mind to observe the same thing from a different perspective. And this is one definition of miracle. In a way, like being in a miracle minded, like, okay, maybe I could see this differently. Maybe this critical mind is reminding me about my purpose. For example, now what I share about my own experience, maybe this is the growth zone, which is unfamiliar first because it's new. Maybe this is the encouragement to go there anyway, and kind of now I was reading my notes, I lost I should but just free flow, so I wouldn't have any notes with me now. I just had a little bit. The message that we get from the inner critic is that strengthening the skill of listening to yourself and really honoring that space where you are pausing to notice and being aware what's your thoughts, no matter the thoughts are. Because very often if we do pause and we notice, like, I'm thinking this way, many times you want to change the thinking mind very fast. It's like, okay, I'm just going to think that this is going to work and I'm going to push it through. And when you start to do this, it might work for a while. I've experienced this myself. But eventually the energy of that, like, I'm just going to go there and think, not think this, but think this. I start to push and pull and kind of like force myself to go to one way of thinking. And this is the kind of what I see a lot of in the yoga world, that's people are talking about bypassing, like thinking positive only and only good vibes, and eventually leading into that the critical mind just gets bigger and bigger, but more hidden. So what we are doing here, and what I'm inviting in this group, and what I really want to practice and share, is that there is awareness of that critical mind, and then there is the process towards the empowering mind, the miracle mind, if you want to use that word. When we do become aware of our habitual ways of thinking, so maybe there is like negative thinking habits, which it can be called pessimists, and I believe in one way, for example, I have been a pessimist especially in my previous life, because I always think about what could go wrong first. That's my habitual. So when when I met a person who is very optimistic, it was like eye opener for me. It's like, okay, you can think like that. Like, I you think immediately that it's gonna work and it's gonna go good, and that's the natural way to think. It's like, okay, that's inspiring. So when we might not be aware of that negative habitual thinking, but when we do get aware, we can change the patterns, the way the mind turns, and that's also happening in that very present moment when we do get aware of, for example, negative thinking patterns, and start to question our thoughts, start to question what we are thinking. Is that true? And what's the message? Like, I'm so curious at the moment to see what is the message from the critical mind. Like, what are you telling me? What are you trying to say? Because often the critical mind is the fastest, loudest, and the most persistent bummer ever. But in a way, like, if I would visualize this critical mind like a person, I just want to take a step back and see, like, what are you trying to say? Like, what's your message? I'm sure there is a message, but what it is under all that noise. And then what is really important, what I would say, is to add compassion to our own processes. So adding self acceptance, adding radically compassion to our thoughts, to our feelings. Like, when you are not feeling so great, take care of yourself even more. Or when you are not feeling that you're doing so great, encourage yourself, inspire yourself, and really stepping into that, like, that encouragement that you can do it from the place of care and from the place of connection. And it's a different way to do it, like pushing through the wall, than to really leaning into a solution, right? Action needed. I don't know what's that. Okay. And when we do this, when we do the listening, creating space, understanding our habitual ways of thinking, understanding our negative mindsets, understanding and questioning our self in a way, like being curious about what's the message behind, and we add compassion, we are awakening that inner wisdom. And the inner wisdom is that voice within us which is always kind and loving, and always on our sides, and always says, like, you're doing great, keep breathing, there is a purpose for this too. This is in a divine order. It's all good. So when that inner wisdom wakes up, then we get guidance towards how we want to walk through, for example, those personal or professional points that really triggers us and puts us to the comfort zone, uncomfort zone. I would maybe say that to observe and to perceive the uncomfort zone as a growth zone, and that already gives me, like, a feeling like, okay, I'm growing here, so it's good, I'm doing this. So tell me if this resonates, if this sounded something that you would love to practice. I'm gonna share with you about the membership. I'm really excited. It is a new thing for me. I never had a membership before, but that's one thing again that I always wanted to have. And I'm trusting that those people who are meant to come to the journey to your membership will find a way. So tell me if this resonates. Comment here under this post if this is you, or what was your takeaway. Keep it simple. You can use emojis, kind of like just let me know that you heard and you watched this and you're there. So let's keep going. Heartled Yogis, I am so honored to be here with you, and thank you for being here with me.